Hi everyone, welcome to the Car Chat podcast, and with us today we have Tom Jaconelli of Romans. Hello.
Hey, how you doing?
Very good, very good. This is a bit of a different format to the sort of normal podcast. We thought there's a whole bunch of new cars that have been released this week, so we thought we were going to have a little dig into them, and then Tom is going to give us a bit of a sort of status update on what's going on with the market. It's pretty mad at the moment, and what's going on in his sort of side of things. So Tom, can you tell the audience, for those that have not come across you, we did actually do a podcast a while ago, so go and listen to that one. But for those people that have not come across you, sort of, who are you, what do you do, what's Romans?
Yeah, so I'm one of the directors at Romans International. We are, I guess, one of the leading supercar dealerships in the UK. We're totally independent. We sell all brands, specialise in the latest stuff. So always keen to see what's coming out. Obviously, definitely affects our market and what we sell. So yeah. Yeah.
I drove a car that you've had in for the first time. I drove a 992 GT3 for the first time.
Cool.
Yesterday. I drove a PDK car.
Oh, the PDK.
Have you driven one?
I have driven the PDK as well, not the manual. I mean, I've moved the manual around the showroom, but
yeah.
But yeah, I haven't taken it out on the road. So
I thought it was interesting. I know this is not really the topic of this podcast, but I thought, since I know you've had some in, and I drove one yesterday, and this is going to come out this week, so it's fairly relevant. I thought it was the thing that stood out to me straight away was the steering. I thought you feel a lot straight through it. Like, it doesn't feel massively different to my 997 it's a bit different, but not massively. Whereas you compare it to some of the earlier electromechanical assisted cars, like Gen 1 991, for example, and like it feels a lot more numb. I thought but it feels really hardcore. Like I think it feels more like an old school RS.
Okay, they've definitely made it a little bit more hardcore. Just I think the separation now between some of the other models is so minimal that they've had to make it feel a bit rawer, just so the GT product is differentiated from the likes of the GTS, which is also just come out. So the gap between the models is ever getting thinner and thinner.
Yeah, they've got to slice the same thing just slightly finer each time.
And then you think, what are they going to do with the RS?
It's going to be mad, isn't it? Like, bonkers.
They're going to have to make it bonkers. I've seen pictures of that ridiculous wing. I think I've seen online, but that's one way of doing it, isn't it?
So that leads quite nicely onto one of the first car I think we should talk about briefly, because we don't have too much information on it. The GT4 RS. That we've seen some videos and pictures of it doing a lap on the Nürburgring.
A very ridiculously quick time, wasn't it?
Yeah, reasonably quick. It was. Let me just go to my folder of. For those that are watching in, throughout this podcast, there's going to be pictures and stuff come up on the screen. If you're audio only, you'll have to do your Googling. But yeah, the GT4 RS did a ring time of 7:09. They do two. There's two types of ring lap times now. There's a 7:04.5 and there's a 7:09.3, and one is slightly longer than the other. I can't remember which is the sort of official gets written down number, but to compare, the GT3 lap time was 6:55, so that's not that far off. And
it's a lot faster than the regular GT4, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a lot faster, and the important things from the video to pick up, other than there's been some debate about whether that car was actually that's as fast as it can go. There's some theories that maybe it could go a bit faster, but one being that they didn't get in the driver that they normally have, Lars Kahn. He comes in and sets blistering lap times in the other Porsches, and I think he wasn't around for some reason. There was someone else driving very fast, but he's the sort of ring specialist. But the things to pick up from the video, it revs to 9, and There's some leak,
yeah,
and there's some leaked
six,
press
or
stuff.
eight?
Yeah, I think it was like eight and a bit. And there's the number 500 PS has come out. So it sounds like it's the GT3 engine or a separate engine that has been made very similar to the GT3 engine. It sounds like it's the GT3 engine to me, or maybe slightly detuned or something, which is a mad concept.
That was always the thing, wasn't it? It's like, how can they make it not as good as the GT3, which I think was why they haven't brought one out until now. But it's almost it's the worst kept secret, isn't it?
Yeah, and it almost to me feels like Porsche's getting to this point where they're like, the internal combustion engine is going to disappear. Maybe let's make these cars like the last hurrah. Put some stupid engines and stuff, and then
why not? People are going to be queuing up to buy them. So
yeah, exactly. Are there still big overs on stuff like because I presume your GT4 RS would be right up your customer's street?
Very much so. I mean, that's going to be a very, very hot car. I mean, you've seen with the 992 GT3, they were not far off 100 grand over list, which is pretty bonkers. I mean, they're coming down a bit, but I mean, the GT4 RS, I mean, I don't know how much it's going to cost brand new, but you'd expect similar-ish kind of numbers, I would have thought.
I think, I think the price, like plucking numbers out of the air, I don't think anyone really knows. It's going to cost less than a GT3, you'd think. But I don't think there's going to be very many of them. Like, I think there's going to be less than there are GT3s. So
yeah, it makes sense. So they're going to be, I know a couple of customers I've spoken to have said they've now got their allocation, but they're saying, should I give it up and wait for a GT3 RS 992 allocation? But I'm just like, just get the GT4 RS. That will be fine, honestly.
Yeah, get the GT4 RS, and then when the GT3 RS comes out in a year's time, or whenever that can't be that long actually till GT3 RS. You think
a year,
maybe a year. Those sorts of cars tended to come out at Geneva, but I don't think Geneva's happening again ever.
Yeah, I doubt it. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I think we'll see what happens, but I'm sure there'll be a few making their way down to Romans from
maybe
from some customers that are getting get some flack from the internet.
Yeah. Plenty of dolphin emojis when we post one, I'm sure.
Do the dealerships ever get in touch with you and be like, "Why are you selling this stuff?" Or they just
sometimes they go to the customer and be like, "Oh, you weren't meant to do that." But sometimes they call us. I mean, Ferrari can get a bit funny as well, but I don't know. At the end of the day, they can't stop it, and you can kind of understand why people do it. This demand versus supply, and at the end of the day, people that want what they can't have are willing to pay, big bucks for it, and sometimes the temptation is too much, and we're just the guys in the middle.
Yeah, you just buy cars and sell cars.
Yeah,
you don't. That's it. I was chatting to someone. Actually, it was the guy with the 992 GT3, and he's played the game of. It's not really a game. It's just an expensive situation of he's bought a lot of cars from his Porsche Center, and he's got his GT3, and he was saying like often. And I don't know whether this is the same. Each dealership does their own stuff, but like if you, let's say, go back to Ferrari, and you want to trade in your car, or you're like, I've had it for 6 months, I want to sell it. They underbid like horrifically, and that gap between going to, let's say, someone like yourselves and the main dealership can sometimes be small. And it can sometimes be vast, and you can see how people don't necessarily sell them back through their dealership because you're just throwing money down the drain.
Most main dealers are pretty geared towards selling brand new, like the margins are a lot higher. So when they get a used car in, sometimes they're just like, you know, they lowball it because they're just like, oh, we'd rather sell someone a new car.
Yeah.
So that's, you know, but we're pretty strong buyers. So, you know, like to think we'd always get ahead of them.
Yeah.
Because we don't have any new, you know, we don't get brand new cars to sell.
Apart from ones with 4 miles on them occasionally.
Technically not brand new.
Yeah,
Still
true. You didn't get to spec it or anything like that.
No.
Right, other stuff. There's just so much stuff that's come out this week. We've got new Range Rover. I feel like that's probably a popular one with you and your customers.
Very much so. I mean, it's probably, I mean, Range Rover, well, this is the 5th generation, right? So I think it was 2012 where the last generation came out. So over that time, there's been so many new rivals. So in some ways, it started to, the last few years, it's lost a little bit of its sort of popularity because there's so many good rivals. There's the Urus, there's the Cullinan, the Bentayga, the Maybach. And Range Rover, I think, needed to come out with this car to sort of, you know, get back to the top, or at least very close to the top. And I mean, I think it looks pretty damn good, to be honest.
I think, it's sort of evolved from the previous design, cleaned up a little bit. The interior is nice. Like, it looks like a nice place to be. It looks comfy.
It's the kind of place you'd think, I wouldn't mind going for a little snooze in there.
Exactly.
You know, maybe just, you know, do a bit of work, kick back. But yeah, it looks like a very, you know, sumptuous place to be. And I really like the new exterior as well. I think the rear looks really clean and elegant. I love the little indicators which are hidden in the sort of rear sort of black grille.
And the rear lights. Like the rear lights, they have the actual LEDs are not pointing outwards. They're pointing like to the side that then bounces off some prisms. So when they're not on, it's black. Like black.
Yeah.
That seems to be something that's in every single bit of media, so they're quite proud of it. So presumably it looks quite cool. For the people that are watching the video, this is something I just sort of vaguely wanted to bring up, so, based on some of these press photos. So we've got a picture of a car right here. Now, Tom, to you, does this look slightly odd?
It does look very odd. It looks like someone's got an old photo and cut out a Range Rover and stuck it on top.
Yeah, so there's a lot of sort of cutting and pasting, and they've obviously made they want the car to look perfect. But in the one we're looking at, I think the Range Rover is about 50% of the size it should be. Like, it's on a normal road, and the curb seems to come up to the center of the wheels.
Yeah, it's not. You've done a great job on that. Is that an official picture as well?
This is an official picture, and unfortunately, and I'm going to call them out on this, their official pictures they're not the best I've seen.
Well,
as a photographer,
CGI on it.
It's all sort of a mix of various photos and cars copied and pasted and dropped into various stuff, but we'll sort of gloss over that. But it seems like a cool thing. The from a tech point of view, the one that sort of stood out to me, there's loads of bits about it and whatnot. The fact that it's got noise cancelling speakers in the headrests.
Yeah, they're actually in the headrest, aren't they?
Which is wicked. Like that if the tech works, sounds like I could see that working, because a few cars have had noise cancelling in, haven't they?
Have they?
Yeah, I think.
Well, they have the sound sort of deadening, but I wasn't sure if they were actually noise cancelling.
I think I'm confused with what it is, but I think like an A8 might have it a little bit.
Okay.
And I know what have they done? They said that there's 30% less noise that comes from the structure into the car. Now, it would be much easier if they said, okay, the actual, when you're sitting there and you're driving down a motorway, it's 2 decibels quieter or something. Mm-hmm. But I presumably they've sort of pushed it up the range, haven't they? They've sort of said, okay, let's try and compare this with other stuff like Bentayga, because price-wise, it starts at 93, I think.
Okay, and that's for the 3 litre, is it?
That's a 3 litre sort of standard wheelbase car. And then if you get the long wheelbase autobiography 5, the one with the V8 in it, and is it a BMW V8?
I don't know. I know it's a brand new engine range. I don't think it's been used on another car. I thought I read, but
I think the V8 is a turbo. The sort of turbo V8 from the faster BMW models.
Yeah, because it's 4.4, isn't it? They've not got 5 litres anymore. It's 4.4, which is the BMW one, so it might be.
But that one, and that's like 130k base.
Okay.
So like, what's a Bentayga start at?
The new ones are closer to 200.
Oh, okay.
They're like late 190s, and then Urus is up from that. Cullinan's up from over 300. So it sits quite nicely, I think.
Yeah,
price point.
I think so, and it's always sort of lived in a class of car that it's not quite almost like Bean. That doesn't necessarily make sense, but I think people's perception of it is it's like a really premium, luxury, comfy car, which it is. But they sort of, I think people cross-shop Range Rovers against all the cars we've sort of mentioned. Maybe not Cullinan, but, Cayenne and all that sort of stuff. Its Range Rover has absolutely been like...
It's been the mainstay, isn't it? It was the original...
benchmark.
I mean, we used to sell so many Range Rovers, and we found people have gone into new brands, which, I think naturally happens with increased competition, but I think there will be people sort of flooding back now, and already people we're speaking to have had numerous calls in the last couple of days being like, have you got any coming? I'm like, well, it's just a little bit early. You can probably go dealer. I don't know when they're meant to be like actually being delivered, probably
2022 sometime,
and I imagine some people have it's been known that it's going to come out next year, so I imagine some people put deposits on it a good while back. But the Defenders have been going crazy as well. So
So what SUVs are the most popular for you guys to sell?
The main ones at the moment are G-Wagons. They've been so hard to get hold of. Every time we get one in, it seems to sell within a few days, and they keep putting the prices up. Mercedes have realised, and obviously with this new car shortage as well, they've been so hard to get, and they put the price up. I think 10 grand this year, 10 grand last year, and then people are still paying over list for them. So the demand for them has been crazy. The Urus as well, that's been just, I think supercar sort of enthusiasts have been really sold to the Urus. It's just got such great performance, and obviously is fit for the family. So those are probably the 2 main ones. But the Defenders, which are quite a bit less, have been massively popular as well. The new Defenders.
Yeah, I think because I drove a Defender, a 110 a while ago, and actually this is something that you now see in the Range Rover, the display, and it looks like it's sort of a bigger, better, curvier display in the new Range Rover. But that versus the previous systems, like to use, it just works, and it reacts to it really reacts to your touch, and you can move stuff around and whatnot. Whereas the previous systems in the Land Rovers was nowhere near like that. So I think that's a big sort of step up. And I think Defender, I see loads of them. They must be selling tons.
Yeah, they are. So, you can get, the price, the sort of starting price, I think is like 50 or 60 grand. So, and it's seen, especially with the Bond movie that's just come out, they're in that. They're just seen as quite a cool. It took a little while. So I think when they first came out a year or 2 ago, they were sort of a bit lukewarm, and suddenly over the last sort of 6-9 months, people have just gone mad for them. And especially in the 110, you get 7 seats, which is not that easy to find. Although, I should say on the new long wheelbase Range Rover, for the first time, they've now got a 7-seat option, which is a massive thing, because that's been one thing that's sort of a lot of big families have had to look elsewhere. I know they did it on the Range Rover Sport, but that car was too small, really.
Yeah.
So that's a real game changer, I think.
Yeah, because if you want 7 seats in a vehicle like that, there aren't that many. Like XC90, but that's quite an old platform now. Discovery 7, and then it's like the big Mercs, like GLS, and what else?
You can get 7 seats in a Bentayga, but it's tiny.
Okay, yeah.
These actually look, as if you saw the picture, they actually look reasonable in the back. I think they've got their own sockets back there, their own little cubby holes, so it's not just for like little kids back there.
Yeah, and I think they made a point of saying like, yeah, it's actually nice. Like it's nice back there. It's not just crap. But they yeah, I mean, if you need 7 seats, it's an option now. Or I guess you can have a long wheelbase and just chuck more luggage in it if you don't. Do those seats sort of fold flat?
I did see one picture where they've got this sort of cushioned, like I think they call it the tailgate event suite, where you can fold down the seats and then put these little, so you can just sit in the back of your.
Yes, they do. They have. I saw this in a video. They have. Yeah, what is it called? Like sort of event seating. Like it's a little. It sort of pops out of the floor. I think it's on all cars. I think it might be on all. You lift up. There's almost like a divider in the boot, and then you lift it up, and then there's these little cushions that sort of sit on top of it and provide you with a little seating place. Because I think that's the sort of stereotypical thing, isn't it? People sitting on the back of their Range Rover, drinking champagne. There you go. There's a picture. Oh, there you go. In this picture, we have the little event seats. Oh, yeah. Okay. You've got a little ramp for your dog if you need. No, I think it's a cool thing. There's loads of engine options. I think it starts off as mild hybrid options. So you can't plug it in. And then coming soon, or might even only be on the higher end ones, it becomes a plug-in. I don't know whether it's plug-in straight away. Yeah,
I did. I had a look on the configurator earlier and there wasn't an option, but I mean, it's definitely coming, a plug-in hybrid, and I assume eventually they'll do a full electric, but I imagine it's a couple
they've
of years
said
off.
2024
Okay.
is when that's going to come. It'll be interesting to see what that's like. And I think the plug-in hybrids, they're saying it's 100 kilometers of range. So you're 60 miles and you probably get 50. But that's actually quite a long way. You get a decent distance out of that before you kick into your...
In town, I mean, that will keep you going a good while.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sure it uses a lot of energy in the process moving your large vehicle, but yeah, it's all of the things. Right, okay, we've got two more new cars. Black Badge Ghost. I feel like this is right up your street.
Yeah, I mean, it's. I've always found the Black Badge Ghost as a bit of an oddball, because the Ghost is a car you sort of sit in the back mainly. It's a luxury cruiser, and then the whole thing with Black Badge is you increasing power, increasing the torque, and making it more of a driver's car. So on the Ghost, you think that's not really why you buy a Ghost. I mean, yes, they still look cool, and there's much more black bits and different wheels and special carbon inside. So yeah, you'd probably rather have one than a normal Ghost. But it's sort of, I think the whole Black Badge thing doesn't work that well on a Ghost.
Yeah,
and they don't go for the Phantom, do they? I think
no. And then a Black Badge Wraith, that of all the Range Rover, of the Rolls Royces, that sort of seems to work for me. But yeah, as your point said, they're not sports cars.
No. It does look cool.
It is. They are cool. And I can see why. So in the Black Badge edition, you get more horsepower from the 6.75 litre V12. It's like, I can't remember how much more, but you get, like different materials. It's all, they always seem to be, they sell a significant percentage of them in black, seem to be get ordered. Actually, they're saying on the sort of press release, a large a much larger percentage of their sales are black badge sales rather than normal sales nowadays. Not as in they eclipse, but I think it's. Let me find the press release. It's something like.
It makes sense. I think is it 25% or something like that.
Yeah, it's something like that. It's significantly. I think they expected it to be 10, and it's like 25 or something. So, do you see a lot coming through the dealership?
Not a lot, to be honest. We get. Well, to be fair, we probably get a few rolls in every month, and maybe 1 out of 4 or 5 is a black badge. But that's going across, Cullinans, Wraiths, Ghosts. But we've always found the Ghost black badges is probably the harder one to sell of the lot. The Wraith black badge seems to really attract the kind, like a younger crowd and who appreciate the performance more, whereas maybe some of the older crowd do just want to sort of cruise about and enjoy that kind of quiet cabin.
Yeah. And they're saying, I think the average age of a Rolls-Royce customer has come down to, I think it's rather than people in their 50s, it's now in their 40s, and a lot of that is black badge customers apparently. So it's helping lower the average age of your Rolls-Royce customer. I don't know. I'm not quite there yet. Yeah, I love the idea of a Ghost.
I'm not there yet.
I love the idea of a Ghost, but just not yet.
You see some very funky specs as well, I think, these days.
You do.
Yeah, crazy colours and dodgy seat accents. But, people like it.
People like it. People love it. And you're starting to see a lot of Cullinans around in London. Like more, the person that used to be driving a Phantom around London all the time seems to be in a Cullinan now. Like it's shifted on. Yeah,
it makes sense. I think people like sitting up higher as well. So that's a big thing now, which we find that the actual sort of more saloon limousine type cars are sort of harder to sell because people just want SUVs and they feel like, they feel a bit more empowered sitting up high, sitting in the back.
Yeah, and there's this theory that, and they are often more sort of practical in terms of space and stuff like that. Not necessarily, but versus your conventional saloon, they definitely are. Big hatchback and whatnot. We're just having a look through some lovely specs. They do look mean. All blacked out black badge Wraith or Ghost is a pretty mean looking thing.
Yeah, it does look mean, and that's we get quite a few footballers buying Wraiths and things like that. Just because it's they quite like the sort of all blacked out stealthy look. Yeah, it does work.
Right, got one more car. New SL. Have you looked at these?
Yeah, I had a little look yesterday when they announced it, and the SL had kind of become a little obsolete from where we were concerned because of the AMG GT Roadster, which kind of did the very similar thing to the SL, and kind of like people thought, what's the point of an SL? I'd get the AMG GT, but now this has come out, you think, actually, wow, that looks nice, and but what's going to differentiate it? And they've done it's like a brand new car, isn't it? This is not a facelift. This is like a totally new generation, and
it doesn't share any sort of bits with any of the like the AMG GT or anything like that. What else? What have they done? There's no longer going to be an AMG GT Roadster, apparently.
Oh, is that right? I didn't know that.
I think that's getting phased out. That
probably makes sense.
I can't remember where I heard that from, but that was from somewhere. It's versus the old one. It's 40% stiffer lengthways, 50% stiffer laterally. It's got the gearbox, the same gearbox in the GT63 I've not driven one of them, but I hear it's it's a pretty good gearbox. Like it's quite snappy. There's an SL 55 and an SL 63, and they both got the 4-litre V8. So
it's just the power difference between the two, is it?
Yeah, I'm sure there's some bits and whatnot, but yeah, essentially power difference. The 63 has some slightly different features, like the suspension and stuff. It has the Mercedes like active ride control system. So I think each wheel is sort of independent of the other, whereas the 55 has torsion bars that go across and connect. So they can do some slightly more trick stuff where one wheel can move without having a knock-on effect on the other car. So it should make the 63 able to have like a dual personality, like more comfortable and then also a bit stiffer. But it's quite a heavy car. I think it's like 1,900 kilos or something.
Because they've done away with the metal folding roof and now have a fabric roof, which I assume is weight saving, but obviously not.
I wonder if it's also space saving.
Yes, definitely. The metal folding roof did take up quite a lot of space. I know you could really struggle to get sort of only one golf bag in the old SL, but I imagine you can get a couple in now.
Yeah, I don't actually know. I haven't found out what the boot capacity is. I've spent far too much time recently looking at boot capacities of various estate cars and SUVs, but unfortunately, if you give me, I guess, 1 second.
It's also got now 2+2, isn't it?
Yes, so you can get some sort of
used to have
children in there. Didn't the SL was a 2+2 though, wasn't it?
No, the SL, I'm pretty sure, was just a two-seater.
It definitely...
In fact, maybe once back in the day, but at least the last SL63 was definitely a two-seater.
Okay. I think, yeah, maybe 10 years ago, 15 years ago, it did. Maybe. And then that went, not being able to find it. But no, I think it's quite a cool looking thing. The interior is much more like a new S-Class.
They've got the big screen in the middle.
A massive screen, which I don't know what that's going to be like to use. I think people quite like them in the Teslas. Have you used a car with a screen like that?
Not me personally, no. But I like the idea of it. It's kind of like, rather than being on your phone, I guess you've got basically an iMac in your computer, in your car. So, although it might become a bit distracting, I imagine. Yeah,
depending on what you're allowed to do with it whilst you're driving. Yeah. But then I found, like, as soon as I can basically like put away my phone, if I can put away my phone, then I'm way less distracted. So if I can like connect it to CarPlay and then just put it in a pocket or something out of the way, I'm significantly less distracted than if it's just in the car somewhere, just buzzing, sending messages.
In traffic.
Yeah, exactly. And it's an interesting looking thing. I think it's quite cool. I think it's probably quite comfy. It's definitely a big change. It's very AMG. And actually these cars are, the 55 and the 63 are AMG cars. They're not
built from the ground up from AMG, aren't they?
Yeah. I don't know when the first drives and whatnot will be, but yeah, it's a cool one. And I expect it to have a nice dual personality of being exceptionally comfortable and waft around.
Yeah, maybe. I think they'll be popular. I think I can see a lot of people going for one of these.
There's rumours that there's going to be a sort of higher end AMG made off the same platform.
Okay.
So
they've done away with the 65, I'm pretty sure, which was a V12, which I think is no longer. But
because those were always like super rare.
Yeah,
and I never.
Very rare.
Like, do you see many 65s come through the showroom that often?
We get offered the odd one. We got offered one actually a couple of weeks ago, but the old sort of '09 one, which I used to belong to Ron Dennis, but the guy wanted the top money for it. He's had it for best part of 10 years, so not going to give it away easily. But they're hard to value when you get a car like that, which is like there's not another one on the market. You start to look at 63s and think, okay, it's a V12. It's going to be worth a bit more. It's rarer, but it's like how much more? And it's like the gap is actually massive. So I guess they've become more sort of collectible cars, SL65s.
Yeah, it was always one of those things that like you'd see for sale because the list price difference between a 65 and a 63 has always been ridiculous. Like at a guess, a 63, let's just say it's like 130, 120, whatever in this situation, and a 65 was like 190.
Yeah.
Like,
you
it's like an extra 50 grand.
Brand new. Yeah, they're depreciated very heavily, but if you can pick one up second hand, with the saving off list, they probably will, hold their money and maybe one day be worth quite a bit when B12s are obsolete. Yeah,
if you don't have to repair them. There's someone near me that has a C, is it a C? No, S-Class S63 and S65 coupe, parked next to each other on their drive. That's quite cool.
Thing is, as a buyer, the S65 doesn't make a lot of sense.
No.
When you start looking at a car to practically use, you think, this doesn't make any sense whatsoever. But it is quite a cool car to have.
Yeah, it's one of those cars that you'll see in a car park, at a car meet, whatever, and it's the 65 or the 600 or whatever. The sort of stupid version that they made, didn't really sell any of, and you can get all Anaraki and be like, oh, that one had 800 horsepower, and they sold 2 of them. But yeah, I think I don't see myself buying a 65, other than unless it's an old one for a while. The 63s are so good. They sound good. Because the 65s don't necessarily sound that good.
No, it's a different sound, but it doesn't have that sort of raw, throaty sound. It's more almost like a sort of Bentley sound. But yeah, a rare thing.
Yeah. Very, very rare thing. So yeah, new SL, quite a cool thing. I'm sure we'll see lots around. I'm sure you'll see a few in and out. Right. So what's been selling? Well, we actually covered some of this, I guess, in the thing. What's your sort of view on the market and this sort of crazy world we're in at the moment?
It's been an interesting year, that is for sure. It's definitely, prices going up and up and up, which has been the sort of theme of the last 6 to 9 months. It's definitely starting to slow down a bit. I think so many people have caught on to the fact, oh my God, my car's gone up in value. So lots of people have been selling, been like, oh my God, I sold my car, had it for a year, didn't lose any money. So that's happening a lot, to the point where now the market is actually getting a little bit saturated, and some certain models are now, there's loads of them for sale. So I think it will start, cool off. We're already noticing that a little bit. But then some cars are still so hard to get hold of. New cars are still incredibly hard to get hold of. So new and nearly new is still very hot. And stuff is selling for big premiums over lists, like normal cars, which is pretty unusual. But yeah, it's a funny old place. You've got to be a little bit cautious, because it is starting to turn a bit. But yeah, like there's still lots of people out there. People are going to main dealers, can't get a car. So, if we can have those cars, then we're doing pretty well. It's just finding that sort of balance of what people are prepared to pay for them, and finding the cars with the right spec.
I've definitely noticed, like the sort of cars that people buy and then probably would sell a year later or 2 years later, because they're like, oh, it's the new this, but it's not particularly different to anything else. Might be a new Ferrari, might be a Porsche or something, but like the things that you see turning over, loads of those, everyone's like, oh my God, I could sell it and I could get more money than I paid for it, and I'm not going to lose like 50 grand or whatever. And then there's suddenly 100 million for sale.
Yeah, everyone's caught on. If you can do it and get a bit of ahead of the herd, then great. But I think now, and now with one thing we do notice is we're being offered more brand new cars than ever before, because everyone thinks their car's worth more than they pay. So any car that's just come out, they're like, oh, right, I can sell it. I can make a couple of grand here, which is just quite funny. So it can skew our sort of thing of like, oh, there's loads of new cars around, just because we're being offered a lot more.
Offered them all the time.
I found expect to lose money, right?
Yeah, exactly. You're writing off 20%, taking it out of the showroom. There's definitely something, because I'm looking at, like an E-Class or 5 Series or something. I'm not really sure. Some kind of estate at the moment. But speaking to a few different dealers about speccing new cars, loads of cars of that sort of range, you can't get certain options. So if you want a new E-Class now, you can't get the 12.5-inch screen, which is like the slightly bigger screen in the middle and whatnot. You can only get the smaller one. You just can't spec it because of whatever, chip shortages and blah, 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 blah. I think on the high-end stuff, you can still spec what you like, but you're definitely starting to be limited on various things, whether it's a 3 Series and you want to have a wireless charging pad in your car. You can't have it. You want to have a certain XYZ. They're like, no, you can't have it. Which will then, presumably, is pushing up the cars that have these things, like the nearly new that's spec'd well, is really rare now.
Yeah, it's going to become a nightmare when you're looking at buying one later down the line, when everything, assuming this chip shortage stuff all sorts itself out, and all the things that were standard features that were missing on certain cars. You'll be buying cars thinking, oh, that was standard, it's got it. And then realizing later on, oh, it doesn't have it.
It was that one 3-month period of time where they just removed like all the stuff that you would expect to have. Yeah, it's an interesting one. I think it's definitely a minefield buying at the moment, because you're like, I want to buy something, and you're like, oh, in a year's time, is this going to have lost like a ton? Like, I'm assuming it's going to lose money anyway because it's a normal car, but like, is it going to lose an extra 20% because we're in this weird situation now?
Yeah, I mean, it's very possible. I mean, from what I'm hearing is that the chip shortage is still going to go well into sort of mid next year. But, you know, I do think you've got to be a little bit careful. It's all well and good saying it's an amazing time to sell. You're going to get really strong money for your car. But if you're just going to go and replace it by paying, you know, top whack for something else, it's kind of, you know, defeating the purpose a little bit. But I don't know. But then it's always nice to change cars, isn't it?
It is. It's nice to try different things. What are you still in your C63?
I've just sold it, literally a few days ago. So and now I've had a little bubba. I'm thinking I might get something a little more practical. I'm thinking, maybe.
Congratulations, because that is in between when we last saw each other. Yes,
it would be. So I maybe need a little bit more practicality. I'm thinking new Defender V8.
Oh, okay.
So,
interesting. 110?
No, I think V8. I have 90. 110 is like a big car. You know, I've only got one kid. No.
Yeah.
But they're cool.
And you have a Range Rover Sport as well, don't you?
Yeah, the missus has a Range Rover Sport, so maybe I can get away with having something a bit more fun. But I don't know. I just quite like those Defenders, the little 90s.
They're cool,
and especially going into winter. I think that'll do the job.
Yeah. And priced well. Like, you get in that car. I remember when I drove one, I was like, the ride is pretty good. The tech, pretty good. Styling, cool. Like, engines, all right. You look at the whole package and you go like, yeah, it seems like
it's pretty good, huh?
It's pretty decent value for what you get and all the stuff.
Yeah, and when you look at G-Wagons now, which some people are asking 200 grand for, you think, well, you know, this is the next best thing for, you know,
significantly less. And if you wanted to order a Defender now, do you know how long it would take for you to get one?
I think you're looking at between 6 and 12 months. I think some models are even harder. I think the hybrids, I was told, are over a year.
Okay.
But yeah, for a V8, I think, you're going to be looking at sort of next summer. So,
and are they limiting those at all?
I don't know. I think Land Rover tend to just make as many as they need to. I remember when they first brought out the SVR, they said it was going to be a limited edition, and then everyone wanted one, so they just made loads and loads of them until they catered for everyone. So I can't see it being a limited edition. I do wonder whether they will make an SVR version as well, because this is just called the V8, right? So
yeah,
I imagine they might do an even more zooped up one.
Yeah, because they did a James Bond edition.
Yes, yeah, the Bond edition, that has been like, we've got so many people asking us about those, trying to get one, but they're super rare, really hard to get hold of. I reckon they're going to be
So
big
what
money.
are they? How are they different?
It's the same car, but it's got lots of little tweaks and little gadgets, little 007 badges. I mean,
Yeah,
you know,
okay.
it's probably didn't cost them hardly anything to do, but you know,
It's got a lot of little bits.
Yeah, it's cool.
I saw someone posting about they just received theirs, I think like yesterday, and they were like, "Oh, I love it." And I think you start it up and it goes like 007, all that sort of stuff. Like they've really tapped in like quick.
Yeah. Pretty. I mean, imagine the novelty is fantastic, but I'm sure it'll wear off fairly quickly.
Yeah. And were they much more expensive than a normal Defender?
I don't think so. I think they were, I'm guessing a little bit, but I think they were about 10 to 15 grand more. It's just the fact that they are properly limited.
Yeah.
And I know that, I think they were about 115, 120. They'll definitely be 150 in the second-hand market.
Yeah. No, cool.
That's a lot of money. But.
Well, we've had a lot of new cars this week. I'm sure there'll be some more. I didn't know, like, I knew the Range Rover was coming, but the SL and the Black Badge, I had no idea about. I just wake up one day and you're like, oh, there's two more.
Yeah, there is a lot, especially when everyone's like new car shortages, but then all these new models are coming out. You think, what is going on?
Yeah, cool. Well, thanks very much for sort of popping on, have a little chat. I hope the audience have enjoyed our ramblings on various things. Right, cool. Thanks very much.
All right, thank you.